Hi everyone, it's Jan from Jan Plans Things, and welcome to my Plan With Me video for this week. I'm using the Posca pens again, and I think this one will be a lot slower in terms of the recording compared to all the other ones you've seen before, because I'm finding it a lot faster to draw with the Posca pens than with watercolor. So at the moment, this is only going at like 2.5 times speed compared to what it normally does. I'm starting off with using the fatter yellow color, and that's basically what I use when I'm blocking out large areas of color. I'm trying to do kind of like a golden springtime afternoon. So I'm drawing in a little bit of a tree stump at the moment, and I probably should have switched to a fatter pen, but I actually hadn't bought a thicker brown pen yet. So I'm just using the 3mm bullet tip for this at the moment. What I'm finding really important is because you're limited in colors and the technique that you're using. I mean, you can, I've seen people draw out a little bit of the Posca pen and dilute it with water and then use it to paint with. But because I'm painting directly from the trunk, from the pen on the trunk, what I'm actually finding is that I have to concentrate a lot more on colors. So colors and shading, much more than I would do if I was doing with watercolor, because I'm kind of limited with the amount of shading that I can do with this style of drawing. So I'm using currently a little peachy color to fill in the sunset, and this is what I mean by a limited color palette. I think if I was doing this with watercolors, I would have probably picked maybe a couple of blues, purples, and pinks, and then painted a really like soft gradient throughout the sky. But instead, because I'm using the Posca pens, I have to be a bit creative with how I use the colors. So I'm using the peach to capture that kind of like mid moment in the sunset. And what I'll be doing a lot today is layering the colors. So in the past, what I've done is I've used a lot of I've been a little bit impatient, and what that has meant is that I haven't been able to layer on the colors as much as I can. And I've done a few tests over the week, and I found that if I leave it to dry for at least 15 minutes, the colors are pretty opaque when I put them on top. So I'll be able to put even light colors on top of a darker base. What I'm doing now is to further capture that kind of like golden sunset look, is I'm kind of draw the underside of the clouds with like that strong peach color, and then I'm going to do some darker clouds in the background with the same color, kind of just like a two-tone sky. So it's like simplifying what you would normally draw with like a more complex medium straight down. And I think something like this works really well for bullet journaling because it's fast and quick. Sorry, you can kind of hear Humphrey just going off in the background because I've told him to stay out of my study while I do my 10-minute recording, and he's not pleased with me. He does own the house. So at the moment, I'm just using the same gold that I used for the hillside for the sun. I think at this point, I kind of wish I had two different tones of gold, because I think it would have helped it be contrast a little bit more, but I'm sticking with it. I'm using a black to do the shadows on the trunk, kind of just to increase the contrast of it, and I think it'll look quite nice. I think if possible, I would use a darker brown, and because of that limited palette, I do have to be a bit creative with this. The Posca pens don't have like a huge range of colors. You can buy the pastel set and then the primary set. But I think if I was to keep using this medium, I'd probably invest in a couple of I think it's the Molokov. It's like a Russian version of the pens, and they have a lot more really lovely pastel and soft midtones. I'm using the black to do any of the plants, and kind of like a shadow relief. So I'm just really simply drawing in a couple of little leaves, a little bit of like shadowed bushes around the edges, and then doing a few strokes on top of the hill, kind of like to just indicate that it is like a grassy area. I think this would also look really nice if you did have a rich dark brown, if you were using that, but I'm kind of really loving how the black looks on this. I think the shadows look really, really nice in this type of dark tone, and it kind of matches matches the time of day that I was doing as well. And it's like a really nice, bright illustration in the middle of my bullet journal. It's kind of like a little like tableau or like tapestry down the center. I think Bumbleboo Joe did a version of a tapestry down the center as well, and I kind of think this is like my cheating version because it is really, really easy to do. I'm also adding a little bit of grassy shadow to the top of the trunk, kind of like to look a little bit like moss. And I think it looks quite nice. I mean, it's just trying to switch my brain around from doing some really complex watercolor work to something a little bit more simple, and using a lot more geometric and simple shapes when I'm drawing as well. So I'm hoping that you guys do enjoy something a little bit different, but I will be going back to watercolors, I think, soon. Probably after the end of this month. So now I'm just dotting in a couple of the plants. I also thought that it could do with a little bit more like bordering. So I'm just drawing like a border plant down the side, and I think it kind of grounds the frame a little bit, but I don't want it on both sides because I feel like that would make the picture really, really tight. So just adding it on one side adds a really soft border to the overall look of the spread, which I think works really, really well, and it kind of gives you that idea that's a little portal into a world. And because I've let the paint markers dry quite thoroughly this time, I'm able to paint on those little mushroom caps in the pink over the brown and the yellow, and you can see how opaque they are, and it's not really been a problem. And I'm also using the white now just to draw a few little stems inside the as well, and just dotting in a few more of like the flower tops. And that's really, really simple, and I think it looks quite effective as well. And it's quite cool because last week I think I didn't leave colors to dry fast enough, and it did mix a little bit more. So by being just a little bit more patient this time round, it worked a lot better. I was just making sure that all the colors are dry to touch and you don't see the ink pooling on the top of the paper, and then I kind of know it's ready. I used the white pen there just to dot a few spots onto the mushrooms, just to kind of give it that speckled mushroom look. And I've decided to use mushroom caps as my numbers as well. I kind of just draw these by eye. I probably should count a little bit more so I can get more even distributions, but it's okay. The other thing is, because I'm using the really fat pen for this, I found that it was a little bit hard to draw the little, you know, hemisphere with that to make the mushroom cap. So I'm going to use a 3mm bullet tip just to draw around the edges of the mushrooms to help define the shape. The other way I've found to do it as well is to use the paintbrush. You can actually brush the top of the paint off the pen if you really need really fine details, and you've seen me do that a little bit in my Inktober drawings. When I wanted to get like hairlines, I used a really thin brush and I just picked up the paint off the tip and then applied that to the page that way. And in keeping with the theme of the overall drawing, I'm just going through and adding a few leaves with the black marker, and that's just kind of like to ground where the mushrooms are, so they're not just like the mushroom stalk and they're just floating in the middle of nowhere. You can kind of see what I mean by distributing the mushrooms a bit, because I didn't count. The bottom row is a little bit close to the second row, but you know, overall it doesn't really matter. I don't mind so much that mistake. I'll just accept it, and it's kind of just adds character to my bullet journal. And I'm just writing in all the numbers in the mushrooms, and then in the smaller mushroom I'm just putting a little letter like a M or a T, kind of just to indicate what day of the week it is. And I think it's really cute. I love the little cluster, the cluster mushrooms for the dates. I'm using the Tools to Live By clips, not for any reason particular. They're the only ones that I had, but a lot of you guys have been asking what they were, so that's what I've been using. And you know, they're nice because they're kind of small and they don't damage the paper so much. So yeah, that's my Plan With Me video for this week. I hope you enjoyed the slightly slower speed, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you guys again next time. Thanks, bye!